They thought they could steal everything that my grandfather left me. Imagine being promised a home, a legacy from someone who meant the world to you, only to find out that your own family sold it right from under you, without hesitation, without remorse. I was heartbroken, furious, and felt completely powerless. But my grandfather wasn't a fool. He had lived through greed, betrayal, and lies before, and he wasn't about to let history repeat itself. Little did my family know, he had left a backup plan that would change everything. I was my grandfather's only grandchild, and we shared a bond that went far beyond family gatherings and birthdays. He practically raised me. When he passed, I was devastated. But in his will, he left me something extraordinary, his house. It wasn't just a house, it was his pride and joy, filled with memories of fishing trips, holiday dinners, and quiet evenings talking about life. When the lawyer read the will, my family's smiles turned to scowls. My parents, my aunts, and my uncles, everyone believed they deserved a piece of it. They argued, shouted, and whispered about fairness. But Grandpa had been crystal clear, the house was mine. Still, I didn't think much of it. I trusted my family, even though I saw the envy in their eyes. I thought they would accept my grandfather's wishes. Oh, how wrong I was. One day, I came back from work to find strangers walking through the house, pointing at rooms, measuring walls, and talking about renovations. Confused, I asked what was going on, and that's when the truth hit me like a freight train. My family had sold the house. They claimed it was for the good of everyone, that I was too young to manage such responsibility, and that it wasn't fair for me to have it all. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't about fairness, it was about greed. I demanded to know how they even managed it legally. They brushed me off, saying they'd handled the paperwork and that I should be grateful to get a small portion of the money when the sale was finalized. My heart sank. It felt like my grandfather's memory had been stolen along with the house. But little did they know, Grandpa had prepared for this exact situation. A few weeks later, the family gathered to finalize the sale and split the money. But before anything could go through, the lawyer stepped in with a thick folder. He looked around the room and said, "It seems there's been a misunderstanding." Everyone froze. He explained that while the will clearly left me the house, Grandpa had also placed the property into a trust. This trust specifically named me as the sole beneficiary, and included a clause that voided any sale attempt without my explicit written consent. In other words, every piece of paperwork they had signed was worthless. The buyers were furious, the deal was dead, and my family sat there stunned. But it didn't stop there. Grandpa had also instructed that if anyone attempted to sell the house without permission, their share of his other assets would be revoked. In plain terms, the greedy ones who tried to rob me had just disinherited themselves. I couldn't help but smile through the shock. Grandpa had outsmarted them all. The fallout was explosive. My uncles screamed at the lawyer, accusing him of lying. My parents turned on each other, blaming everyone but themselves. My aunts broke into tears, wailing about losing everything. I stayed quiet, letting it all unfold. Inside, though, I felt a deep mix of anger and satisfaction. They had tried to rip away the one piece of my grandfather I had left, but instead, they had destroyed their own chances of benefiting from him at all. When they realized I now legally owned the house, completely untouchable, the bitterness in their eyes was impossible to miss. They had underestimated me, and more importantly, they had underestimated Grandpa. Over the next few weeks, they tried guilt trips, manipulation, even begging. But my answer never changed. Grandpa wanted me to have this house. And I will honor his wishes. Some might say the trust already was revenge enough, but I decided to go one step further. Grandpa always believed that people should be held accountable for their choices, so I followed his lead. I informed the lawyer of every shady detail about how they had attempted the sale. While the trust protected the house, their actions still left them open to legal consequences. A few of them were slapped with fines and penalties for misrepresentation and fraud. The ones who thought they'd profit ended up losing money instead. And as for me? I moved into the house. Every corner held memories of Grandpa, and every day I spent there felt like justice had been served. Whenever family tried to visit, I politely reminded them, "You sold this house once. You don't get to step inside again." It wasn't just a home, it was proof that greed doesn't win. Grandpa had the final laugh, and I got the life he wanted me to have. In the end, My family thought they could erase my grandfather's legacy and take what wasn't theirs. But what they didn't know was that Grandpa's love came with wisdom, and a backup plan they never saw coming. They walked away empty-handed, while I gained not just a home, but also the reassurance that justice had been served. Sometimes revenge doesn't come from anger or confrontation, it comes from patience, preparation, and outsmarting those who think they're clever. Grandpa knew that. And thanks to him, so do I.